Hey guys, in today's video, we will be covering how to prepare your bar prep schedule part 2. Okay, so we've already done part 1. So if you haven't watched that already, you can go and do that. It's on my channel. And that was more focused on how to allocate your time and juggle all your other things while still having a really effective bar prep schedule in terms of how much time you can allocate to it per day, per week, etc. And this one is more so the actual bar prep activity, the things that you will be doing on a daily basis, the bar prep activity that you need to be doing to pass the bar, basically. So we'll get straight into it. So let me just do this as a heading. Let me just put it right here. It's okay. So we are looking at bar prep activity. So things like deciding your schedule and deciding what you're covering per day never falls into your bar prep schedule. And I always say this. Oop, I went a bit crazy. Went a bit crazy. But these are things like learning the law, which will be number 1. So I'll just bring that out right here. So number 1, the first activity that you need to be doing, of course, is learning and understanding the law. Now, I'll just zoom in for you. Um, now there are different ways that you may achieve this, depending on what kind of program you're using, if you are self-studying, etc. But typically, these will include activities such as video lectures or video or audio lectures. I don't know what's going on with my writing today. Oh gosh, all my spelling. So video or audio lectures, firstly, and then or you may have outlines, and outside of outlines, some bar prep companies still give you textbooks, so let's just put that as a separate one, although it's like reading, right? So these are typically things you'll be doing, and if it's not a video or audio lecture, it could be actual classes as well, of course. So that would cover that would come under video audio lectures classes. So let me just add that. Okay, so generally these tips go more to people who are self-studying or doing an on-demand program, maybe, because I know a lot of bar prep programs give you actual schedules to follow. But if you would like to build your own outside of that, that kind of works more for you, or just to give you more clarity, to know that you're really doing what you have to do, then this may be useful for you. And so with these, so video lectures, audio lectures, classes, outlines, textbooks, with the video lectures and audio lectures and even classes, one thing you could do is figure out how many hours will you have to commit to this. And this is just to have sight of what you'll be doing and how long you'll be doing spending it. Another thing that, if you guys have been watching my videos, you'll know that I always advocate is that I am much more a fan of and much more an advocate of quality over quantity. I don't actually go in and say, this is the amount of hours you should be spending per day. You have to do 8 hours per day. You have to do 10 hours. You have to do 12 hours. That's not my approach. My approach is these are the things that you need to be doing. Let's look at how much time you have, and then let's fit that in to make sense with that time. Okay. So even if you're starting, in the previous video, I said it's never too early to start, and I still stand on that. Obviously there are still ways to avoid burnout, but for the purposes of this video we won't go into all of that. But if you're starting sooner, you could spread it out. If you're starting later and just dedicating a more focused time, then you can keep it condensed and in that time, but you can always fit in the activity that you have to do. And with things like outlines or textbooks, you could even go to the extent of figuring out how many pages, oh goodness, how many pages do you have to read? How many pages do you have to cover? And if you know your reading speed, sorry, that's actually a really useful thing as well. Not many people do, but there are sites online where you can find out. Goodness gracious me. Okay, it's a late Saturday night where I am right now. So I apologize for these little mistakes. How many pages? And then you would look at the time you have. So if you have 60 days, if you have 90 days, if you have 120 days, but obviously you're not going to be learning the law throughout that time. So you want to figure out what's your cutoff period, when do you want to achieve what you plan to achieve by, so you can move on to the next part. So outside of learning the law, the next big thing that you will be doing as bar prep activity is, where should we bring it? Just bring it right over here. Is of course the MBE. Now the MBE, as you know, is 50% of your score on the bar exam on the UBE. And I know other states are slightly different, but on the UBE, it's 50% of your score. So you definitely want to be doing making sure that you are focusing on the MBE for sure. And the activity that you'll be doing when it comes to the MBE is, I'm going to say these two. Practice questions. Of course, you can never get away from practice questions, unfortunately. And even though it may be something you might not be comfortable with, especially at the beginning, I surely do remember the feeling. It's beneficial. It's so beneficial. And sometimes it's the things that make you uncomfortable that are most beneficial for you. Okay. So outside of doing the practice questions, you really also want to make sure you're reviewing the practice questions. And reviewing the practice questions deserves its own timing, its own time, its own slot, its own allocated time, because it's so essential and so beneficial when you're reviewing the questions and really seeing why you got an answer wrong, why you got it right, and how they've been asking the questions and why they've come up with that answer that they've given and why it wasn't something else. And that helps you consolidate the law. And that's another thing I would say when it comes to these MBEs. Another tip I would say that I would just add in, and I will make a separate video on this altogether, but another thing you could do is after you've learned a topic, you could come and look for a question on that topic, and same for essays, and use the MBE as a way to consolidate. So I'll just put as consolidation, consolidation, right? So you can see, okay, I've just learned about murder. They're never going to ask you, this is another thing, they're never going to ask you, what is murder? Is it this, that, or that? It's not just going to be like a quiz. It's an actual, you're going to have facts, you're going to have problems, you're going to have plot twists, all of that. So sometimes looking at how the question is asked is very beneficial, because it's not going to be asked in the same way as you've learned it on your outline. And so many of us, if you've taken the bar before, or even just exams, you know that sometimes the way you've learned something is not how it comes up in an MBE or even in an essay. Okay, so looking at these MBEs as consolidation, just doing a few at the beginning is always beneficial. So I would say try and carve that in as close to the beginning of your bar prep as possible. And another tip is when you start off, you could even start off by doing like one or two. And so you want to do one question. I'll just type that out, and then review immediately. And the reason for this, as I said, it really helps you just see as you're in that early stage of learning, like what it is, what's going on. Why did you get it right? Why did you get it wrong? You don't want to leave yourself curious trying to wonder until like 20 questions later. I feel like it's better at the beginning to just do and review, do and review, do and review. And then as you get better, you can start doing bigger blocks, maybe say moving on to doing blocks of 10 and move up in increments of 5, depending on how much time you have, how many questions you plan on doing, and when you plan on doing them. Also, another thing I would say, so I'll say move up in increments, move up, so let's say blocks of 10. So in your bar prep schedule, you would know that, okay, at the beginning, I'll be spending this much time on MBE actual questions because I'm going to spend this much time reviewing. And you would incorporate that a little bit differently. So instead of doing one session for the questions and one session for reviewing, at the offset, you'll do one session that has the questions and the reviewing incorporated into that time slot. And then as you move on, your day would move around where you are doing maybe a set of 10 questions, and then reviewing afterwards, and you would maybe want to take a break and then come back and review, like just a short 5-minute break or so. And this is very high level, again, just like the other video was. So these are like blocks or increments of 10, 15, or 20. You could even start with 5. Obviously do what feels right to you. And then, like I said, just looking at how they're asked, so you can go back and forth and start doing questions from as early on as possible. And again, I would not say you have to like strive to do thousands and thousands and thousands of questions from the beginning. After all, some bar prep companies only use the newer format of questions, and I think that's like just under or over 700 now. Maybe pushing 8. Don't quote me, but that's what a lot of companies use. But some of them use the older questions that have been adapted into the newer format, so that you can have a similar, questioning experience, even though those were the older questions from previous years. So just bear that in mind. But I would say that either way, just knowing, say, I want to do 1,000 questions, I have 90 days, I want to start from very early and divide that. And we'll go through the little formula in a minute. And in fact, let me just do that now. So for example, I'll just do that here. If you have 1,000 questions you want to do, and let's say 30 days, you want to do 1,000 questions in 30 days. Oops. Based on my previous calculations, because I did previously calculate, just because you guys know how I get with math on the spot sometimes, that would work out to be about 33.3 questions a day. So obviously you could just round it down or round it up, depending on what you feel like. And so that sounds way more manageable than just saying, I'm going to do 1,000 questions. Now, again, I would recommend you are doing these questions in a way that is allowing you to do the review. I don't want you to say, I'm going to spend hours being busy doing questions because I really want to get as many questions in, and you're not getting that quality review in. It goes back to what I was saying about just deciding to do 12 hours of bar prep, but it's not quality bar prep. It's not the actual things that are going to help you move the needle and do the things that you actually need to be doing. Okay, so that's one way you can calculate it. And if you're going to do 2,000 questions in 60 days or 90 days, however it is, you can calculate it and allocate it based on those numbers, so you know how much time you need to do. And it may not take you 8 hours at times, so that's the beauty of it. So yeah. Okay, so next we have the MEEs. And with this, it's basically the same thing. It's you doing those practice questions and reviewing those questions, and even analyzing those questions and outlining. Let me just put that all in. So I guess it all falls under that. With the MEEs, that's the thing you want to be doing. You definitely practicing. We spell it differently in the UK. You definitely want to be practicing these questions, reviewing the answers, analyzing the answers, and looking again to see, like I was saying here, how are they asking these questions? How is the law coming up? What are the kind of issues and problems that I need to be spotting? Okay, so doing that, and again, from very early on, you can do this. What was the next one? Analyzing, and then also outlining. I apologize, it's out of sync. Analyzing the questions. So you want to carve time to be doing all of that, especially outlining. So again, it's the same thing, where you would ask, and I'll just put this here in the middle. The question is, how many? So, oops. So how many? Okay, so how many questions do you want to do for the MEE? How many questions do you want to do for the MBE? How much time do you have? And how are you going to spread them out? So you can do it in a way that will not be overwhelming, will allow you to be doing the things you need to be doing to be passing the bar, and really focusing on that. And when it comes to the next one, which is the MPT, Let's see how we can turn this around. Okay, so this is looking a little bit squashed. Okay, let's take it this way. So we're going to move on to the MPTs very quickly. Let's do this. So with the MPTs, it's the same old story. In fact, I'm just going to bring MPTs here. Then we'll talk about memorization very quickly and then be done. So number 4 is the MPTs, and it's literally exactly the same thing. Analyzing them, practicing them, how many do you want to do, spread it out over your time. So I'm just going to squiggle this here, outlining them as well. Yeah, that's what you'll be doing. The same thing for the MPTs. And of course, asking how many you want to do, and then figuring out in terms of the timing that you have and when you want to do it. Obviously, you wouldn't have to do as many MPTs as MEEs and MBEs, but it's still advisable to definitely get yourself comfortable with doing them. So there is that. Okay. The more you're familiar, the more you expose yourself to it, the easier it will be for you in just doing it when it comes on the day. Okay, so really strategizing and finding your way around that. And I'll make separate videos for each of these. This is just more about planning the bar prep schedule and the activity that you want to be fitting in. Then, of course, we can't forget memorization. It's a key thing that people often forget about. And I can delete this line now. I was just trying to extend my screen. So memorization is definitely very important, because you need to memorize the law. Sometimes you just need to know what it says and how it says it, and also in which will come more with the next step. How do Americans spell memorization? Memorization, yeah. That's a bit funny to me. Memorization, and this is obviously doing things like flashcards, and I have a whole video on memorization that you can have a look at. Let's say teaching the law is a great way to help, but that's more of consolidation, really. And of course, practice questions come up so often because they are literally the way forward. Honestly, practice questions are one of the best methods to do. I did every MEE and I think every MBE when it came to my bar exam, but I wasn't stressed out doing it. I had planned very well in advance and it fit into my schedule beautifully. And of course, I do help people set up their schedules in the same way that I did mine. So if you ever need assistance with that, just let me know. The final step is consolidation. Towards the end, especially, you want to be consolidating everything that you're learning, comparing notes, going back to look at your outlines and seeing if you've really understood something, and if that's the reason why you may be getting questions wrong. You want to have a look and see if your answers look like the answers that are in the MEEs that are given, the model answers, the sample answers, and really just going in and solidifying that. That's a little bit different from memorization, but really just going back over things that you, and this is like a form of review, really, that you've done in the past, going back over your weaker areas. Yeah, I'm just going to call it going over your weaker areas, and just really making sure you understand and really enforce it and in, ingrain it, really just imprint it on your brain. Okay, the law slash weaker areas, and just making sure that you really are understanding what's required of you to pass the exam in terms of law, in terms of format, in terms of timing, in terms of structure. And these things are just important. Even things like your typing skills, although this is not consolidation per se, but just knowing that you can type out an essay in the time required. Do you need to type faster? That's something that I did. I increased my typing speed from like 30 words per minute to 80 to 90 words per minute, just to get everything out there, because I realized that was something that was holding me back the whole time and I didn't even know it. Okay, so these are the main activities you will be doing in your bar prep schedule. Let me zoom out so that you can take a screenshot If possible, I guess not. I will make a screenshot and attach it to this video just in case you want to have a look. I know it's a little bit messy and all over the place, but all in all, you want to be learning the law, doing MBEs, doing MEEs, doing MPTs, memorizing and consolidating everything that you have learned. And these are the activities that you need to fit into your daily bar prep routine. And again, if you need help figuring out that daily bar prep routine, you can contact me directly and we can set up a call to see how I can help you. But until then, I will see you at the next video.